there, Lloyd Machedo, speaking to you from LloydMachedo.com. Who's Lloyd Machedo and Think Personal Branding? The date is 9th June 2018. Time right now is 8:26 in the evening. I got this question from one of my viewers who paid me for a session, and that is why I thought it would be a very appropriate topic to speak about. The question is, how do you ask for a raise or an increase in your salary? And the gentleman is predominantly from the Middle East. He's an expat. Now, I have checked a couple of videos that are online, especially from authors who are from the West. What I've noticed is most of these authors try to be politically correct. They give you these, haphazard, typical bullshit, where sit down, have a communication talk, win-win, and when you put yourself in their shoes, they give you these flowery little bullshit pieces of advice. You begin to think like, what the fuck are you talking about? Just shut the fuck, shut the fuck up, man. See, the reality is, all these techniques that these people give you in books, put yourself in that person's shoes, mirror the body language, develop a rapport, have a trust, and put down in writing what is to be done. All this stuff works in books. It works in books. But the reality is, it's a very different world out there. I'm pretty sure if you go up to your boss, your owner, your CEO, or the owner of the company who is a multi-millionaire, and you sit and tell him, and you're trying to, copy his body language and try to tell him, these are the areas where I contribute and this is where I'll add value. The guy will just look at you and tell you, listen, you want to work, you work, otherwise I can get someone else. Just go to hell. See, because if you're indispensable, if you're the guy who nobody can get, your talent is so great, your skill level is so high, you're bringing in so much of revenue, then fine. You can call the shots and the guy will literally dance to your tunes. But if you're an average guy like everyone else, these techniques don't work. So what are the techniques that do work? I'm going to tell you the real stuff. Okay, now you don't have to agree with me, but I would like to know your comments if you, feel these are useful. Now, the first thing is, keep in mind that the guy who is your employer, the guy who is the CEO or the guy who is giving you the salary, he is smarter than you. He knows what the market is ready to offer. He has options, or he definitely keeps options. And where you only think of your monthly salary, the CEO or the owner of the company doesn't think only of the monthly salary. He thinks 12 months in advance. He thinks, if this guy goes, who's the next replacement? He thinks of angles and areas that you'd never think of. That is why he is 10 times more richer than you, 10 times more successful than you, and that is why he occupies the position that he occupies, because he is truly better than you. You're good at one process, he is good at multiple processes. So, understand that he is smarter than you, okay? That's the first thing you need to, and with that approach, you approach the task in a very intelligent manner. So, how do you go about? The first thing that a CEO does think about is, okay, what is the market paying for this particular position or this particular job? You should be aware of that what is the market paying for your current job, okay, the position that you're working. And that's the first thing. The second thing, what you need to know is, what is the value that you bring to the table? Now, let's say, for example, you're a Photoshop designer. You're a guy who designs Photoshop. And you cannot actually measure. You cannot measure, are you better than another guy? Because this is a skill that is very customized. It is a very subjective. Creativity is very subjective. One person's creative logo may be another person's creative disaster. So if you're in sales, obviously you can measure it. So let's say, for example, the industry target for selling credit cards per month is, let's say, 55 per month. And you're selling like 89 or 100. So, and that is across the board. And, with the credit card features being more or less the same in the banking industry, you're achieving double the targets month after month. So there you can measure. But where you cannot measure, so you have to relatively take, okay, you're just like the rest. So first is, know what is the industry that is what is the salary that they are paying for this particular job. Second one is, what is your output? You need to kind of evaluate that. The only add-ons that you can have is if you have years of experience, if you have the ability to handle teams. Let's say one guy, he doesn't have anybody under him. The other guy has 7 people working under him who he's accountable for. So that can actually make you get a better pay grade. Then your communication skills, especially how you sell. If you are the type of person who is called for each and every meeting where you have to not only explain the products and services, you're also closing the sale. Now, these are the add-on factors that can position you as higher than what the market pays. So first is find out what is the market paying for that particular position. And the second one is find out what are the value-added propositions that you bring to the table. Okay, and most of them should be measurable. Don't put stuff like, I work very hard. Hard work, any donkey can do. You can sit in the office, a job that can take 6 hours. You can sit for 3 days in the office and say, I worked very hard. So have skill traits that can be measured. Let's say, for example, closing a sale. That is a very powerful trait. Being able to represent the CEO during his absence, or your manager during his absence, that has a, you can bargain. You can use that as your ace. So know what the market is paying you and know what value you bring to the table. So that's the first point. The second thing what you need to keep in mind is when asking for a raise, you have to be good at selling. If you're not good at selling, you're not good at, putting the pitch of, like they say, sell an ice cream, sell ice to an Eskimo. If you don't have that kind of capacity where you're a hustler, where you can really sell hardcore, where you can really impress a person, where you can really charm a person, especially, I think likability is a very strong, important phenomenon. If you're very likable, the chances of you being able to get a raise is much more higher. So you should be able to sell, you should be able to pitch, you should be able to hustle, you should be likable. So that's point number 2. Point number 3, let's assume you're not likable. Let's assume you're not a guy who's very good at selling. You're not an extrovert. So point number 3 comes down to your leadership skills. I know there are lots of people out there who may not be good at selling. They're not a hustler. They're not constantly saying, hey guys, I'm here, I'm flamboyant. No, they are the quiet ones. They are the ones who have this very silent energy. But the beauty about them is they're very powerful. When they walk into a room, people actually notice them. They have years of experience in managing teams. There are many of these leaders who do not talk much, but they actually do. So if you're a leader and you act like one, you behave like one, you command the respect of people, and you have a track record of being a leader, of managing people, there you have a real added bonus of asking for a raise. Because if a CEO of a company or owner of a company, he has one guy who's managing 20 people, he wouldn't want to lose that guy. He wouldn't want to lose the guy who's managing 20 people or 4 people or 5 people. The reason being is, let's say you're managing them very effectively and you leave, the next guy comes. There'll always be clashes in personality. Maybe it'll not work out that well. So the person who's a catalyst, who can bring in everyone's energy levels to a very high value, lead them to success, train them, mentor them, and coach them towards greatness, that person has a much more higher chance of getting a raise. So identify if you have that leadership trait. Point number 4 is having contacts and connections in the market. The more contacts you have, let's say, for example, one person has, he is very close with the decision makers of 20 companies, the guys who signed the dotted line while giving the sale. Or the person knows all the vendors, all the suppliers, all the clients, or the people in, let's say, the legal teams in the courts or wherever. So, or he's in touch with the media personnel. Now, if you have contacts and connections in the industry and you're really someone who can be an influencer, okay, that person always has the leverage. So if you compare one guy who has contacts and connections with, let's say, 20 of the top clients, 20 of the top suppliers, the vendors, he deals with them. And there's another guy who is bringing in revenue for the company, but he doesn't deal with anyone in the market. This guy who who has contacts, connections, and who's a key influencer, the face of the company, he would tend to have a better bargaining leverage than this other person. The next one is point number 5 is, like I told you, you need to be a hustler, you need to be in sales. But point number 5 is knowing how to market and sell your brand. If you do not know how to market and sell your brand, if you do not know what makes you stand out, if you do not know why should you be given the raise, if you do not know what makes you number 1 in the market, if you do not know your brand essence, if you do not know yourself, and you do not you cannot position yourself as the Lexus or the Rolls Royce in the company, or the Lamborghini. I'm giving you a kind of analogy where you can identify yourself from the rest, then you cannot survive. Because remember, end of the day, you are the product, you are the service, you are the brand. So if you do not know how to sell yourself, make yourself interesting, pitch yourself, impress other people, express yourself to other people, then 100% you cannot succeed. Okay. Point number 6. Oh yeah, one more thing with regards to the brand is, also for that, you need to have a written down pitch, word for word statements that will help you stand out. If you don't have that, then you cannot succeed. And point number 6 is, a guy who has, let's say, 3 job offers, a person who has 3 job offers, and he has a better chance of negotiating a salary than a person who doesn't have any job offer but says, I would like to renegotiate my salary. So make sure that you have 2-3 other options in your hand. So if in case he says no, your employer says no, you have the ability to choose. Or you can even bring this at the table and say, Mr. So-and-so, or Mark, or whatever his name is, I know this is what you're offering me. I want you to know that I have these offers that have come to me, but my loyalty is towards you. I really want to work for you. I don't want to leave you. All I'm asking you is, can you match this salary, or can you nearly bring it to this? Because if you can match, I'd be really happy, because I can take care of my family, I can take care of my expense, and my only focus would be to work 100% at the job and keep contributing the way I am. So I'm requesting you, please consider. So when you bring in another option, the guy would definitely think about it, because, there's always that feeling that, oh, sheesh, I don't want to lose my guy who's so much in demand. That feeling is always there. Last, if not the least, this is point number 7, is sometimes you should know when to break up, you should know when to resign, you should know, you should have that resignation paper in your pocket. I think I realized this when I was a manager of a company, industrial company. I was close to the CEO, and one of these guys, newly appointed, we were trying to, align him with the values, systems, and the sales targets of the company. So when he was a new recruit, so when, I did tell him, I was trying to be a tough guy at that time, and tell him that you need to follow the rules. He said, if this is the case, then here's my resignation. He just took out the resignation paper from his pocket, and he put it on the table and said, you can accept my resignation, I'm ready to move. So that really got me by shock. I was like, sheesh, he really wants to resign. And when I went and spoke to the CEO said, we can't just have a new recruit just resigning, I want you to handle the situation. So that is where I realized a person who is very clear about his values, about what he brings to the table, and if he is so strong that he can actually resign, literally actually resign, there's always a consideration to give them a chance. But here's the thing, be mentally prepared that your resignation can be accepted, and if your resignation is accepted, you need to move on. So make sure that if you're resigning, you have option B, C, D, whatever, and also be sure that you're really as good as not only but the market also knows. So these are the 7 points that I would recommend in terms of considering for a raise. Remember this, that end of the day, don't try any of these childish, immature kind of techniques. How to ask for a raise, be persuasive, be nice, put yourself in that person's shoes. That's all fucking shit, okay? The CEO or the employer or the owner of the company doesn't give a rat's ass. He's not going to bend over backwards for you, because this is what they think. If they will bend over backwards for you, obviously, the stories would get around that because all the people in the company talk to each other. So the story would get around is, I negotiated salary. Why don't you negotiate? And then everyone would gang up together, and that would cause a ruckus in the company. So the CEO of the company or the owner of the company has to think of the backlash, has to think of what is the impact that this decision would have on other people. So he would think 100 times before giving a raise. So keep all these factors in mind. Remember, it's the owner of the company doesn't think like you, only your salary. He thinks about how much do I have to pay annually, and if I give this guy a raise, what would be the repercussions? What would be the reactions from other people? How would I face them if they say, even I want a raise? Everyone gangs up together, and that can really be a problem. So these are the points that I feel really help in getting a raise. I've done this. And I would say, if nothing else, if nothing that you do helps you in getting a raise, it is definitely time to resign and move on. Because sometimes what happens is, when you stay in a company and they have a corporate culture and they have a fixed income that everyone has agreed upon, changing that structure for one person, that also, if you're not indispensable, it's not possible, because companies have a budget. So sometimes the only solution you have is resign, reapply in the market, and try. But most important is, make sure that you apply when you already have a job, because when you have a job, you can negotiate. But if you don't have a job, it becomes very hard to negotiate. So I hope these points really help you. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't like the video, give it a thumbs down. But keep this in mind that end of the day, it is all about experience. It is about practice. It's not something that you can have by default. Sit down with your mentor or coach, practice your lines, keep practicing, make sure that you gain fluency, and if you keep at it, eventually you'll get better. So Lloyd from Machedo.com, who's Lloyd Machedo in Think Personal Branding, giving you his views. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Like the video, give it a thumbs up. Don't like it, give it a thumbs down. And this is me signing off for now. Take care.